That he's like really nice and funny around everybody, and he tries to be kind to everyone he's around. He loves fishing a lot too.
Yeah.
And
Well, they've been with me once.
and he's really been fighting in the hospital too a lot. That's all I can.
Do you have a favorite memory of him?
Fishing with him one day, catching a big fish. You want him to introduce him nice and well.
Yeah. So when I first asked Amy to marry me, I didn't ask his permission, so I was worried that he was going to be upset.
Can you be louder?
So I was worried he was going to be upset, and so when he found out that I had asked Amy to marry me, instead of being upset, he gave me the biggest bear hug, and then later on told me that he'd been praying for somebody like me for his daughter that didn't think it was like possible. And then we would always play basketball together, and he would always take it easy on me. And then we would always go fishing with his friends, Dan Weiner. But just being able to talk to him about God was probably the biggest involvement. Having somebody
Amy, do you want
Sure. Can you hold this?
Sure.
Don't press any buttons. Just
No
keep
buttons. Nice and loud, because it's noisy.
I am so thankful for this guy for many reasons. He's the most loving, gentle, kind, wonderful man in the world. The best dad that I could have asked for. He always says, "I'm always here for you when you need someone to talk to. I'm always here." And he's just, I love him so much with all my heart.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Christy?
Okay. Like some things I like to say about Dad. The first one is, I always thought like he's just weird enough to keep our family from being too normal, which is true. There's a lot of Dave Osborne stories. I don't know, you guys may have. Yeah. I mean, honestly, try to think of one because we'd love to hear at some point during the lunch a Dave Osborne story because there's so many of them. I guess I'll just tell one of growing up. The weird was a little too weird for me because when I was a teenager, of course I was embarrassed to be seen with any parent. But this one walks like this, he walked real fast, he had his keys jingling, he whistled no matter where he was in the mall. And I remember trying to walk behind him because if I walked in front of him, he'd catch up because he was like the fastest walker, right? But it's all those little things that make him so special. And it's also something I appreciate in myself through him is that, there's things about me that are a little offbeat. I can walk to my own drumstick and he walks to his for sure. So yeah, I don't know what to say. He is everything that Amy said about him, the most loving, the most kind. I always knew, as introverted as he is, another thing I like to think about is he's the most introverted introvert that ever introverted, but in his mind is like just a very deep and complex mind, and the way that he reflects, we've had a lot of really wonderful conversations over the years. He's written Amy and me both letters, long letters. Even when his hand got arthritic, we would get, letters from him that told us what's on his mind, and I appreciate that part of him too, and I could speak for hours, but I won't. I love you, and I'm proud of him for how he's fought through his health problems in the last year by trying to keep moving, keep exercising, and keep eating. So.
Did I tell you about the time that I was on my way to a choir practice and I found that my husband was in the basement with a hamster and a gun.
The hamster. Who won?
The ham. So this hamster had got an infected leg, and we had already paid $75 to go to the vet. And he wasn't going to get better. I said, David, I don't want him to suffer. Just take a book and hit him over the head. He won't know what happened. Unfortunately, he took a gun and was going to shoot him in the basement. But I caught him in time. He took him, the hamster in a box and brought him outside. Did you pull the trigger, Dave? Outside.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Got the hamster bit that you did.
So, first of all, I want to say that I appreciate every one of you being here. It's a very special day, very special birthday, and you mean everything to us.
Yes.
We appreciate your support. I don't know if we'll be celebrating our 54th wedding anniversary August 2nd, so that's coming up. I don't know if my girls know this, but after I got out of college, I met up with a girl who was in the women's choir at Wayne State. Well, she was working and playing the piano for a music teacher. And so she told me, she says, oh, he's such a neat guy. He's teaching music and he's a Christian and he's so fun. And I went in the house that day and I said, Mom, I just heard about the guy I'm going to marry. For some reason, I never forgot his name. So when I ran into a music professor I had at Wayne State at some church, he said, oh, I want to introduce you to this guy. He wants to start a Christian singing group. Guess who he introduced me to? I made the group, and 9 months later we were married. Now, that group was Manna, and we had lots of adventures together. There have been so many adventures with Dave that we probably will enjoy for years. When we were first married, we were in an apartment, so he thought of a way to surprise me. He was going to crouch down outside the door so I couldn't see him through the peephole. And when I opened the door, he was going to say, "Paper boy." Unfortunately, he was at somebody else's door. I would like to have heard how he explained that one. Then there was a time that he was fishing on a very cold, dark day on the pier of Lake Michigan in Frankfurt. And he was too close to where this other guy was fishing. So he said, would you move somewhere else? Unfortunately, it was so dark that David walked right off of the pier into 3-foot waves. And the two guys who struggled to get him out of the lake probably prayed for the first time in their life. They realized they needed God's help. Now, when he was in the hospital the first time, June 16th, he became known as an escape artist. Somehow he learned to go to the bottom of the bed and turn the alarm off, and he was actually caught on the nurse's monitors. So one day this nurse came in and said that if you get out of bed again, you're going to have to hug me so I can carry you to the bed. And he says, I'm not hugging you. Now that's a good sign for me. I don't have to worry about him hugging a million nurses. Now, this is funny. When we were engaged, he typed out single space about 2 pages of all the things we had in common. And I found that list about 4 years ago, and I had a very good laugh.
Do you still have it?
I hope so. I think I know where it might be. So the funny thing is, after 50 plus years, yes, you do have some things in common. Though you're surprised at how different you are and what you don't have in common. Sometimes we're not quite in the same place. Sometimes we're not even on the same planet. But what we are on the same page about is our love for Jesus and the Bible. And that has never changed. He reads his Bible like his father every day, and he has a prayer list that is unreadable. I wish he would have let me take a picture of it, but he prays for each and every one of you, and he's faithful. And sometimes when I lose my keys, lose my purse, lose this, lose that, which happens very often, I say, would you pray for me? He said, I already did. He prayed for me without me even asking him to. One thing I did not put on my list as a requirement for a husband someday was that he would read to me at night. That's one of the best things that I treasure. Every night he reads to me. It's so precious to
I
me.
knew something about it too.
That's good. Now, at this age, we may not remember the next day what we read, so we can read it over again, the same over and over again and save money. Let's see. One thing I'm learning now, as Dave and I face these new health challenges, never-ending doctor's visits, reading endless test results, 8 hours a day. I was trying to understand what happened to him by reading test results, talking to the doctors. Yikes. One thing I'm doing differently, we're hugging more. I hold his hands and I tell him I'm here for you. And I tell him I love him, and those things were by the wayside before, but I'm not going to let them stay by the wayside. So what a time it is to get close, knowing that I need him in his prayers, and he needs me to do his medicines and take him everywhere. But I'm trying to go about it in a better way. So out of all the adventures we've had and the many more to come, we know that we are not alone. We have God, we have family, we have friends, and we are grateful. Happy birthday, Super Dave.
Thank you.
No pressure, but if anyone else just wanted to say something, this is not here yet. He wanted to say something. Yeah, you wanted to say something?
I said thank you to Christy and Donna for calling people.
Real loud.
That they called you means a lot to me. And I appreciate you coming very much.
We're glad to be here,
Thank you.
celebrating you.
Thank you, Amy.
Something else about him is he just, people just love him, and even though he's, like I said, an introverted person, he draws people to him that love him and kind of stay with him forever. So I think about Nick Queen, who you had, he looked at you as a father figure, and I know Jason, you coming into the family, and Dan has always had a very special relationship with him and all of you as well. So yeah, we love you.
Are you glad that guy's not in here?
I'm glad we got our own room.
Well, we don't know if there's going to be another party, so we figured we'd better